Hey there, investors. Welcome back to another episode of Passive Income Adventures powered by real estate. Today, our guest is Christian Groomes, and Christian is a real estate lender. And so he's been around this stuff for his career. And I am really excited to hear his story today, where he looks at all of that industry knowledge and that professional experience that he had and was able to turn that into saying, if all these people are doing it, why can't I do it? So thank you for coming on the show, Christian. I am really looking forward to hearing about your story and what you've learned and where you're going. So you want to start out by introducing yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Emma, for having me on. I'm looking forward to it. I'm born and raised here in South Carolina, Clemson to be exact. Now live in Greenville, South Carolina, where the headquarters is for Lima One Capital, where I work. My backstory, that's a tough one. I'm always been the type where I love working hard. Nobody's going to outwork me. That's really the mentality that I bring. And that started early on in middle school. I was told, hey, if you graduate with perfect attendance K through 12, you get a scholarship. And I was like, cool. And I found this out in like 8th grade that I had perfect attendance all the way up through 8th grade. Didn't know it. So I graduated through 12th grade with perfect attendance, and little did I know, all I got was a piece of paper. No scholarship. So they screwed me over that way. And I went to college at Clemson right down the road and was fortunate enough to be a walk-on the football team. So I played on the Clemson National Championship football team 2016. So got the national championship ring then, learned a lot throughout that time there, which ultimately really led me to a professional career where we are now. I really didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do coming out. I had no intentions of being in real estate. I just really wanted to find my way through life. And there's all these different circumstances in life. And next thing you know, I land a job in the customer service world of trucking. Okay, this is going to be, I didn't know what to expect. I'm a newly graduated college student, and I think it was like $18 an hour. And I was just doing loads for Costco. We all know who Costco is. And it was I learned a lot, let's just say that. I learned a lot about corporate America in this less than 2 months with this job. So the whole world is crazy. Our Lord has a plan for everything. So I work out 3 to 4 or 5 times a week doing CrossFit at our local gym. And I'm new to Greenville. I walk into the gym and these 2 guys are standing there like, hey, you should apply for an underwriting position at Lima One. And I'm like, I have no clue what underwriting is. I don't know. And they're like, I was like, I got a job. I'm good. Well, they said, just send your resume in. So I sent my resume in, and I took a phone call on a lunch break while I still had a job. And they said, the HR people said, hey, can we stop this interview now? And I was like, oh no, what did I do? So they said, you're not a fit for underwriting. And I didn't know what underwriting was. They're like, we need to get you in front of the sales leader or the sales guy. Because I just really wanted to do sales. I enjoy talking to people. It's what I do. We talk all day long. Well, I'm walking into work. This was about a month and a half, 2 months in, drinking a smoothie for breakfast, nothing crazy. And they said, hey, come with me this way. And I was like, uh-oh, this is the side of the office I've never been to. Heart starts beating really fast. I see a brown box, and they said, hey, corporate's doing cuts. You're out. And I was like, what? What? So we didn't even make it 90 days, if you will. So I had moved to Greenville less than 2 weeks. I had just signed a year lease in an apartment and brand new. I'm like, what the heck? So I'm like, all right, we got to find out what to do. So that really leads me back to like football. And the people at Clemson really cared about you as a person. They really cared about how you succeeded. I'm an emotional person. Let's face it, people getting laid off, that doesn't happen. It's not going to happen to me. Well, it did. And it happened right away and taught me a lot. And so little did I know, I had an interview lined up the following Monday with this company, Lima One. And I didn't know what real estate is. All I know is you buy a house as a family, you live there, and hey, That's it, right? If you said, what's a mortgage or what's a deed? How do you calculate an interest rate? I almost failed accounting and finance at Clemson. Let's face it, it wasn't applicable to me. Yeah, I laugh about that to this day. Here we are. The next week, I had an interview lined up, and it's just all in the plan. So I took a job in the sales organization here at Lima One Capital, where we provide financing for real estate investors nationwide, fix and flip, rental loans, ground up developments, multifamily, value add, bridge, perm. So anything that is investor related on the residential side, we do. And I come in, I didn't know anything. I'm out here listening to Bigger Pockets episodes. I'm listening to, as I like to call my buddies, we call it YouTube University. I'm just watching YouTube videos. I'm reading. I'm trying to get my hands on anything, because I don't want to sound like an idiot when I'm trying to sell people some loans. That's really my immediate background. This was almost 5 years ago now, and has really taught me so much. With that being said, I'm like, all right, I'm seeing people doing these deals, similar thoughts of wholesalers. Like wholesalers, they're like, wait, why am I wholesaling this property when I could just make that money myself? The first thing, I'm seeing all these deals. I'm like, God, man, I want to do this myself. And fast forward to COVID, the February of COVID, when it was really starting to pick up. And I'm like, I'm going to start off with a single family. We're just a turnkey ready rental, and let's just buy it. And I'm less than 2 years into this job now, and not really knowing a ton. And at this time, I thought I had a grasp on it. And I have very conservative parents, very amazing parents. And I kept them posted on this, and I'm going to closing this day. So I'm about to go buy this property when the heat of COVID is about to just blow up. And they said, son, you need to back out of this. We don't know what's going to happen. And I stuck to it. Ever since then, I've been able to buy, between me and myself and my partner, acquire more properties. And that first property has been my best performing property to date. So I'm glad I stuck with it, didn't quit. But all that being said, I see different models. I see everything day to day. And I was like, I'm going to go do that. So outside of providing loans, we're helping provide the future our families with generational wealth.
So the type of lending that you do, I consider it commercial because it's investors.
Yep.
And you do probably a lot of portfolios, but can you give us a little bit more information about, one, I want to find out more about the lending that you do specifically and what your niche is. And then I want you to tell us a story of how you went from, gee, I should be able to do this too, to actually buying that first property, and more details about what that looked like.
Yeah, so really what we do, a very 30,000 foot overview. Anybody that's wanting to flip a house, if you see a house that needs a ton of rehab, we provide the financing for that, where banks would not touch that type of house with a rehab loan that they would even offer. So then you come across investors who are being capped on Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac style conventional loans, and they want to put them in a portfolio like you mentioned. We do that, and everything's under an entity. It's not under your personal name. So I have literally people that come to me and they'll do portfolios of 10 properties at a time, because that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac cutoff is around 10 properties in your personal name. So they'll just do 10 at a time and just recycle it. That's very common. I love ground up development. I'm very passionate about that. The highlight of a recent deal that I did was a 72 unit townhome development deal in Phoenix, one of the hottest build to rent markets. Did a townhome build to rent project there. Also value add, a big thing, multifamily, let's just say up to 200-ish units. We're doing a lot of value add bridge. That's a very niche product. And the biggest thing there for any investors that are listening, this is not a floating rate loan. It's a fixed rate bridge loan. So that has been an awesome product for investors to be able to take advantage of. That's about us. And then on that first property you mentioned, I was scared. It's like buying your first house. And this is shortly after I bought my first house. I bought it. Should I have done this? Should I have done this? Kept second guessing it. And that first one is the scariest. Is it meant to be? You can't fall in love with the property like you would maybe your primary residence, because it just kills you, really. I really just had to think about how we mitigate risk on our side as a lender and help mitigate my own risk personally when I'm buying this property. From a market rent standpoint, from a taxes and insurance standpoint, the biggest thing that I see from investors is that they tend to not look at taxes. Now, when I say taxes, you're going to see where when a property is acquired, those taxes are going to be reassessed. And everybody underwrites not everybody, but a lot of people that I see deals from will underwrite those off current previous year taxes. And it kills DSCR. That's the biggest thing. You just have to stick to your guns and trust your instincts.
I think that's a really good point, especially in commercial real estate. Those are the first things we check. What's their insurance and what are their property taxes? And if it's pretty similar to what the current owner is paying on the profit and loss statement, then we know that they haven't really considered, or maybe they don't have an actual quote from the tax assessor's office, or they don't have a quote from an insurance agent because they're like, oh, bump it up a little. And that's a huge newbie mistake. And I see it even in commercial real estate all the time, where you think that people should be a little bit more experienced, but property taxes and insurance will kill any deal if it's not right. Because if you don't have those things right, that deal is not going anywhere. If those numbers are wrong, real life will come and teach you. So going from a new college graduate who hates finance and they're like, you're not cut out for this underwriting thing. Let's put you over into the sales, like being more of a client facing role here. You have had to go back and learn those numbers. So can you tell us a little bit more about your evolution from I don't get finance to where you are today, working on building wealth and understanding at the core of what we do, this is a finance business. I would say a sales and finance business. And you're probably feeling really great about the sales side of things. How did you get comfortable with the finance side of things? Because it's so important.
Yeah, the easiest way to answer that is really just it's applicable. When I was in those classes, I was like, this just doesn't make sense. When am I ever going to apply this? And then when we look at interest-only loans, I was able to then almost calculate interest-only loan payments off the top of my head. It's really just all about repetition. It's really about at-bats, like in baseball, where I kept doing it over and over and over. And I'm like, all right, this makes sense. A 30-year amortization. All right, here's how different interest rates, like buy ups, buy downs. Hey, is this profitable for me to do a buy down, or what's the break even point? It was just all about doing it over and over again. And honestly, it's turned out to be really fun. I'm glad I have enjoyed it.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I thought the same thing. I thought I'm going to force myself to learn how to do this because I'm not a finance person either. I have a degree in entrepreneurial management and a specialty in marketing graphic design. So I'm more on the art side of things, even then I don't really do sales and I don't really do finance. And so it was a real struggle for me to say, I need to get good at this, because when I was looking at my first couple of deals, I'm back of the napkin on, I think I know what the 1% rule is. I think this is close to that, but I didn't know what those expenses were. I didn't have a spreadsheet. I didn't have a model. I didn't know what to do as far as like doing the research to actually put the numbers into there. Oh, I hate that part. And so I really struggled. And I thought the more I did this, the faster I would get at it. And it would just get to the point where it was just rote secondhand. But years later, I still don't like it. So I do it when I have to. And I can read the reports that my financial managers and my property managers send me, and I can make decisions based on those reports because of that experience of forcing myself to learn how to do it. But you're right. I have had a lot of experience in this area now because I'm just using it. I got to look at numbers. And eventually, even though you don't like it that much, well, I don't like it that much. You just said you enjoy it now, but it's just one of those things you just got to keep doing it over and over and over again. And I always tell people, I said, this may be sounding a little bit harsh, but if you're refusing to acquire this skill, even at a rudimentary level that you can at least interface with your financial managers, you're in the wrong industry. This is a finance industry at the bottom of it. I'm wondering, how much time do you spend on that side of things now? Because you've got your day job as a lender, right? And then you've got your, maybe we'll call it a side hustle as an investor, and you're working on getting more of that side hustle income to the point where could potentially be your full-time eventually. How much time do you spend on that side of things now? And what's your favorite part of investing? If you could just really focus, that's what I like about commercial real estate. I have to pick one thing that I focus on, and then I just do that. And for me, that's marketing. And so I have more of a team of people around me so I can really niche down into my specialty. So I notice when I'm doing residential real estate, I have to be more of a generalist and wear more hats. So if you could really say, this is my superpower and I'm going to really focus down on this, what would it be?
Goodness, it's going to sound very high level, but like tenant management, of keeping the tenants happy. I love going out and just putting a face with a name, and that way that people can know who you are. Hey, he's not just the guy that needs rent. I think that if they understand that you are truly here to help them and benefit, we're here to help them out. Just a quick story. I think that really little things go a long way. My thing is, a happy tenant is a paying tenant. We bought some quadplexes last year and late 2021. So I'm a little over a year ago. And the old owners were running their mouth saying, these guys are going to come in and just blow your rents out of the water. No, even when you buy a large multifamily complex, you're not going to bump rents from $1,000 a month to $1,700 a month. It's a slow process. We came in, let them know, okay, that's rumors, that's a lie. It was right before Christmas also. We showed up with a $100 Visa gift card to each unit and said, hey, Merry Christmas. We're so-and-so, nice to meet you. And ever since then, we have never had any issues with any tenants. Now, knock on wood about that, but it's just really getting in front of them and just showing that you care. It's really just as simple as showing you care. And they love that.
That's a really beautiful story. And I was not expecting that answer from your discussion on finances and how you know if it's a good deal or not.
Yeah.
And also on sales and helping other people. I guess customer service is a part of sales, and it's the best salespeople are really good at customer service because they really care about who they are interacting with. It's a mark of a really good and caring salesperson, one of the good guys.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this, and I'm curious what you think, because here's my opinion. I would rather have a tenant that pays on time and I know I'm able to chat with them and connect with them versus a rude tenant that you never hear from them. All you hear is complaints. To me, I'd rather have somebody that's maybe under market rent, right? That pays versus a rude person. Are they going to ever pay? You don't ever know. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that people are just extremely unique. I have 6 kids, and certainly as they've gotten older, the personality differences between all of them is really wide. The similarities are there as well, but all of my tenants are so different. I do manage my own residential, like my small portfolio, for IRS purposes because I'm a real estate professional. And so I want to make sure that I'm really hands-on in the generation of the passive income for tax purposes.
Right.
And so I've chosen to manage my small portfolio and then turn over my larger units to a property manager. And the ones that I manage, I'm self-manager. They know I'm the owner. I don't tell them I'm the property manager. People say I should, but I just can't. When they ask me if I own it, I say yes.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat.
My tenants on my small portfolio, they pay their rent, right? I sometimes will have to say, hey, the rent is late because I have my property management software basically generates me a report where it's like red letters if something is late. And so I'll just reach out. Usually I don't have to say anything, but they always catch up because you have that relationship with them. But at the same time, I have had the flip side of that where a few of them have tried to take advantage of that relationship and give the sob story and, oh, my cousin's bringing it on Friday. That's much more difficult to just tell them, no, it needs to be in, or you need to vacate. I'm running a business here. And that is rare, but you will have people who just basically have done that their whole lives. It's part of their personality. They kind of make a living of it. And I have spent a lot of time over the past several years really trying to familiarize myself on how to quickly identify personality types so that I don't get sucked into someone who's a victim narcissist. That's very, very common for the sob story and not paying rent. And so learning how to look out for those signals has really saved me a lot of headache. And if that person does end up moving in, I'm very quickly able to act and terminate the lease and say, this isn't working. And so I have had a few of those happen. But if you're maintaining that relationship, it can go both ways on you. And currently doing both, the property manager has pros and cons and self-managing has pros and cons. You're just really never going to get an entire basket of positives. You just You just make the decision based on what that particular property needs.
Yeah. Well, that's real estate in a whole, right?
Yeah.
If you had to sum it up, it's not all green grass that some may make it out to be.
Yeah. Well, I would love to talk more about your athletic background. And the reason why is because I have found that athletes and former athletes, whether they were college athletes or maybe they were a professional athlete, but especially in the sports where they're not really getting paid, like maybe a minor league or a third tier sport, something like that, you are putting a lot of mental energy and grit into what you're doing. And I found that athletes retire out of their sport after college or after a career, and that same gritty mindset is there, that same determination, that same discipline, and that same belief that you can do something that's maybe top tier. A lot of people are like, oh, I could never buy an apartment building. I could never have a portfolio of rentals. But a lot of people think that they could never play college ball. A lot of people think that they can't have an athletics career. And so, how has that discipline and that mindset translated over to a successful entrepreneur working career and also as an investor now?
Yeah, it's the double-edged sword. Like it's the college athletics is not what everybody makes it out to be, right? Let's just say college football, for example. All they see is what happens on Saturdays. They don't see the stuff at Friday at 5:30 in the morning. For example, we're running stadiums on a early 5:30 morning and the guy's throwing up and he's still running up the stairs. So people don't see really what goes on behind the scenes. Now it comes off as entertainment sometimes on TV or whatever, but it's obviously like, people are putting their lives out there, and it's great. It taught me so much about myself personally. I have an amazing family. I have amazing parents, brothers and sisters, but growing up, having football or an athletics, it teaches you stuff about yourself that your parents or your family cannot. You go to class at 8:30 and you've already worked out, you've already had breakfast, you've already done this and that, whereas a regular Joe may have been hung over from 3 a.m. the night before, and you've already done so much more than he did. And that's not in an arrogant way, like the Clemson way of saying it. You're just built different. Your mind is trained differently. You're trained to think differently. You're trained to think one step ahead. And the biggest thing for me, it was like learning the why. And everybody says the biggest, you hear it all the time, what's your why? Well, if you can learn the why, and that's what I took away from it the most, of learning the why. Hey, I don't know, for example, if there's an issue going on in an apartment unit, trying to figure out why something is happening, or in a loan, like why is this happening? If you understand that, you become dangerous. If you understand, hey, there's cash flow issues, why? All right, are your taxes off, or your insurance, like we talked about? If you really understand the why, that goes a long way. And really, this sounds cliche, but time management, having to manage a few different schedules, where they come from having practice, doing your homework, because you're still a student and you're managing all of this together, and you have to fit it all in 24 hours. So really just, I would say, learning how to think differently in a different way, and then really just time management is what I really draw on from athletics.
It's funny how something that should be a physical skill, ball handling skills, physical fitness and conditioning, but when you're running up stadiums at 5:30 in the morning and you're throwing up and your legs are on fire, you're not thinking at that moment that it's a mental game, right? It's the not quitting part that is the mental game.
Yeah,
And that's really
yeah.
what you carry out of that.
It makes you not want to quit. When you find a deal and you lose at the contract, or you make an offer and you don't get it, you get beat out. That just motivates you more to get that next deal. Or you always want to be the best, right? We always want to have the most units, or whatever. We always want to be the best. And it's a different mindset. And that's really correlated to what I do here, lending, or also just, it really kind of helped me be not scared. Like, I know that I can go out and do it.
Well, you also have the benefit of playing on a successful team. And knowing that nothing builds success like success, so that you can say, hey, we won that last game, and that pumps you up and gets you to the point where you realize you can win the next game. And so you have the double bonus of saying, I learned how to not quit when I want to throw up when I'm running, or I learned how to not quit when I'm playing through an injury. But at the same time, you know how that success can buoy you up mentally and get you charged up to go do the next thing. Let me tell you a quick story. My high school rugby coach now coaches the crossover rugby team, where he's looking for American athletes from other sports that he can then bring to the World Cup, because the US doesn't really represent at that event very well.
Yeah.
And so he's out there watching for certain body types at the grocery store. He's out there at other athletic matches watching for a certain type that he knows he can bring in, and all they need is the specific rugby knowledge, but that they have crossover skills. And so in that same sense, you can turn a wrestler or a basketball player or a track runner into a great rugby player, and he's trained his mind how to look for that. The same thing, like, you're able to take your athletic background and use that as a crossover skill into what you're doing now. So what have you found to be some advantages of being able to take that and then cross that over into what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when I had first finished working, like the first few months, 40 hours a week or whatever, however long you work, I was like, this is it. This is all we have to do. Because we're so used to 5 a.m. till 10 or 11 at night. Whereas in a sport, you're mentally and more physically fatigued. Well, working day to day, you're not physically fatigued, not like you were playing a sport, but you're just mentally drained. But what that allowed me to do was work on things outside of work, grow my portfolio, do other things like side hustles, if you will. I feel like I'm not even doing much because I'm used to that kind of schedule. So that's what helped make that easy to do.
Yeah, it's like when you're used to carrying weights around everywhere you go, and then you drop the weights and suddenly you feel like you're floating.
Right.
So let's take that crossover one step farther from your sales career now over into your investing career, because you've been able to successfully transition. And the reason I think this is really important, because I know I experienced this at the beginning of my investing career, where I wasn't from a finance background. I had construction management experience from our personal projects, but I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing. And I didn't really feel like I deserved to be in the room or learning about it. What makes me believe that I can do this and match with these guys who I'm watching and being inspired by? And I remember sitting it was some sort of a conference where they were teaching us how to raise private capital. And it was all about have a podcast, write an ebook, be on social media, and how to send out an email newsletter and deal with your customer relationship manager, like for your sales pipeline. And I remember just sitting there thinking, that's marketing. I already
Yeah.
do marketing. I am a marketer. And so when I realized that I could take my marketing skills and apply that towards the real estate industry, I was very buoyed up, and I felt, wow, I'm actually steps ahead of most of the other beginners in this room, because I already have that marketing background. And we all know the more money you can raise, the more deals that you can do, and the
Yep.
more people that you can help. And so that really changed my mindset from feeling like I didn't deserve to be in that room to, actually, I think I'm pretty well suited for this. And so how has your sales and your lending background then translated over to your passive income pursuits of being an investor? How has that helped you?
Yeah, it's been, I don't want to, it's not easy, right? I would say just being able to see everybody doing these deals, it gives you the confidence, like you said, all right, I'm in this room with these people, I know I can do it. And really just what I love seeing, whether it be for myself or clients, I love seeing people turn neighborhoods around, like turning properties, making them look beautiful. And that's what I wanted to do. And after seeing people do that, it gave me that ability in my mind that I know I can do this. I understand the risk mitigation side of things, whether it be from construction management all the way to the underwriting side. And like, I have a leg up in some places of knowing what to look for, how to make sure that you mitigate your own risk. And I'm like, let's just do it. Like Nike, hey, we just stop standing on the sidelines. So I kept telling myself, just do it. I can't tell you how many deals I underwrote before that first one. I think one of the biggest mistakes also for newer investors is you got to go on that first deal. You got to buy it or you got to do it, right? And not every deal is a fit. There's one right down from my house where I want, but I would never buy it because of what they want, or you know what I mean? So not everyone is cut. So that's what I would say.
And there's a balance between learning, observing, hanging out with other people who are doing it, and that tipping point of taking action. And I remember that same coach was bugging me one time because I'm always standing on the side and I'm watching. The eyes are darting around. I had never seen rugby before. My mom grew up in England, and so when I found out that our school had a rugby team, I was like, that sounds fun, right? My mom's always talking about how much fun rugby is, but I had never experienced it. And I didn't know what was going on. And my coach came over, he says, "Why are you always standing on the side watching? Why don't you just get in there and play? You'll learn more by playing it than you will by standing here and watching it." And I think that I always try to balance that. I always try to say, if the stakes are high and you're going to lose a lot of money, you really need to spend some more time researching, learning, trying things. But that tipping point of saying, hey, I'm just going to get in there and I'm going to play the game because I'm really never going to be good at this until I get in there and get time with the ball or time with the team. And so balancing that for me, has come pretty naturally. But I know a lot of people struggle with that because I think his words to me in high school really stuck with me. I'm watching and I'm learning a ton from watching, but eventually I just need to jump in there and do that and get that thing done. And for me, that has really come back to me many, many times, that it doesn't matter how much time you spend watching. But at the same time, my sister, when she was doing the Dave Ramsey thing and trying to get out of debt, she was saying, we don't have a subscription to ESPN anymore. I said, who cares? I know you love sports, but you're really trying to get out of debt. Just leave the cable alone. She goes, no, my kids are really missing out because we can't have the basketball and the football and all the sports playing on the background, because that is like a subliminal, subconscious thing where they're watching the way those people move their bodies, the way they make shots. And the ability to visualize that and be deeply exposed to that helps them be better players when they get out and do their sport. And I said, okay, all right, how are we going to get your ESPN back? What do you need to pay off so that you can afford cable again? Because I knew that what she was saying was true. The more time you spend observing, watching, learning, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you never go out and put it into practice. But just getting out there and playing in the mud, you're not going to learn as much as if you pull back and you watch and you see what's going on. That's why athletes spend so much time watching game tape, because there's a lot to learn there. And so how do you balance that taking action portion with your research and I guess your development phase?
Yeah, it's a fine line. My dad had a good saying growing up. You have two eyes, like you said, you watch and you listen, like 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So you got to listen and watch before you say anything. And I think really for me, you got to be calculated and do it. And this is cliche, but you got to make smart decisions. And for me, it's all about sitting on it. And if that means losing a deal, that's fine. It's not meant to be. What my partner and I do is we look at a deal separately. We both have 2 separate brains. Like we both work or underwrite differently, but we get similar results and very similar. So we have to look at things. What we do is we look at them differently. You know, we're not in the same room, and we send our performance to each other and we compare. And hey, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And if we match, then we know it's solid. And we have our own ways of doing due diligence. And this is just prelim, but if we're far off, we know that it's bad. And then we'll sit on it maybe for a day. And then, hey, do we still feel good about this? And that's when then we can really make some power moves from there of making sure that we're making the right decision, not just an emotional decision, which really hurts a lot of people in this industry.
I want to circle back around to what you said before that kind of ties in to that, where you were talking about the mental discipline of athletics helps you to understand the deeper reason why you're doing something. And so what you just said there, where you're understanding kind of like the why behind this deal, not being emotional, not being too hasty, to balance research with action taking. But let's come back around to that reason why. Why are you doing this in the first place? What are your income dreams and goals? What are your passive income dreams and goals? And why are you able to stay motivated even when things get difficult?
This is easy to say, but for my family, got a beautiful wife at home. She's a nurse, and like I want to be able to provide for us. I want to, and the people behind us, generations to come, whether that be kids, grandkids. I want people to see the glory of what we're doing now, and what we do. It's going to hopefully change generations. And real estate is a vehicle to do that. I do it because I love it. I do it because I enjoy working with people. I enjoy having these types of conversations. I enjoy just networking. I enjoy because you never know if I'm going to be able to help you or you have somebody that can help me. It's a big circle of just, that's why it's always like the Chick-fil-A mindset of just being nice to people. And good things hopefully will fall into place from there. Eventually, hopes and dreams of just running a big show eventually.
It's a heady feeling. I feel like I'm dealing with people's homes and I'm dealing with people's lives. And now that my husband and I are at first base where we have enough passive income that he no longer has to work, things are real lean, right? That first year or two of transition and giving up that income has been tough, right? But at the same time, I'm looking for like second and third base goals. And the more time I spend visualizing and thinking about what's going to drive me now, it was always so he could quit his job, so he could quit his job, so he could quit his job. And suddenly I'm like, I don't have a why anymore. And it's still my family, but it's so we can get super rich and have a private jet. Like that kind of stuff doesn't really motivate me. I would like to have a little bit more comfort, like a level of like the internal anxiety that's been kind of high since he left his job. But I've been finding that it's been more and more about the people. These are people's homes. These are people's lives. It's my home, my life, my children's lives. Like it's about my colleagues. It's about my tenants. It's about my partners. It's just about people. And the more it is about people, the more fun and enjoyable and rewarding and motivating it is. And so the new why that's just starting, I don't really have a why statement again. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's just starting to coalesce around just going out and helping people and good things will come out of it, just like you said. So
Yeah.
I love, I love that, even though you say it sounds cliched, at the bottom of what we're doing, I think that's what drives most of us is for a level of security. And so we can have more fun with the people that we love and the people that we want to serve.
Fun and freedom.
Yeah. My word of the year for 2023 is playful, because this has been a rough transition and I really do want to spend more time being playful. And you'll notice if we go back to the football analogy that they call it playing football. They call it playing sports, even though it's probably one of the most difficult things you've ever done. And we all know the grit and the mindset it takes, but we still call it playing football, playing sports. It should be fun. And that should be at the root of what really motivates us.
That's exactly right. It goes back to this recent injury that we saw with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
You don't realize how close we are. These guys are not, it's all entertainment for us, but risking their life.
I think that every time we're junior owners, shareholders of the professional rugby team here in Salt Lake City. And every time I go to a game and I'm rooting for the team and I want them to win, and I know these guys are out there playing their hearts out, but I know they're right at the edge of a very serious injury. And I feel like sometimes they're sacrificing themselves for our entertainment. And then I have to remember, this is how everybody here feeds their families. They love this. But I think sometimes as a real estate investor, sometimes I feel on the edge in a similar way. Like, we could just make it through this recession for a couple of years, 2 years, we're going to be fine. It's just make it through this game. If my knee can make it through this game. And sometimes you're standing out there and you're watching all the guys lining up for the anthem or something. They got their hands around and tape, pounds of tape all over their fingers and their elbows and their knees. And they're out there playing extremely injured. And that would put me like, oh, honey, I have to stay in bed. I hurt my pinky. So it's just a very different mindset, and recognizing that it's about the people that are out there playing, the lives that this business is supporting, and the lives that they're touching by doing these amazing things. And again, it just comes right back to the people. Thank you for bringing that in, because it would be really easy for you to talk all about sales and how you just want to make a lot of money so you can have a private jet. But that's one thing I've heard about from you over and over during this interview, is that it's always coming back to the people for you and how you can serve people, which that's really where the root of it should be for all of us. And I think that the longer you do this, the more common that becomes. When people don't have to worry about their day-to-day security, they can then start to think about, how can I have a good impact on the world around me?
That's exactly right. That's what we got to do. Change the world one person at a time.
Yep. Hopefully me first, and then I have some room for helping others. Change me first. Okay, so Christian, what are you working on right now, and how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm working on just really growing my network. That was one of my biggest things for this year, just really growing my network with people of like-minded mindsets, whether that be growing the passive income or people that are needing assistance on financing. So yeah, people can contact me on my cell phone. That's 864-508-0053. And then my email is cgroomes@lmiaone.com.
Nice. And I'll have that in the show notes as well so that people can get in touch with you after the show. And I always say that is the purpose of the show. We want you to reach out to us. If you've heard something on this episode that you feel like has touched you, or that one of us can help you with something that you've got going on, it's not just for entertainment purposes. We want to help you, but ultimately we want to network with you. We want you to be in our network, and we want to be in your network. So please reach out after the show. And Christian, for our last question, what passive income adventure are you working on right now?
I've got something pretty cool that I'm working on. It is a soft Q1 launch. Want to really just take the whole state of South Carolina over eventually of property management stuff. We're going to be launching, between me and my couple partners, hopefully launching a property management company that's fully integrated. We'll have eventually start development projects within that, but really take over a lot in the Greenville, South Carolina market, and show people that it's all about people, like I've mentioned. I think that with property management, the biggest complaint is they don't answer the phone. And how hard is that? It's not. I really want to change the game one tenant at a time by doing that.
That is a huge goal, and it'll have a nice side benefit of helping your investments be more successful because you'll be more hands-on, which will in turn help you to raise more capital, which will in turn help you to do more projects, and finally to help more people. So that is actually a big, hairy goal, but I think that it's very needed. People who want to shake up the property management industry by using better technology, being able to deal with that level of detail is really important. And it sounds like you have the right motivation behind it to help people. So thank you. I wish you luck on that adventure.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, I will have your contact information in the show notes, and everybody, please feel free to reach out and get to know Christian and just find out how he can help you and how you can help him building our network. So thank you so much for joining in on our passive income adventures, and we will catch you all on the next one.